In the busy town of Abeokuta, where motorcycle taxis zoomed past shops with bright plastic signs and market women shouted prices into their mobile phones, lived Amina. She had been married to Kofi for 15 years. Their two-story home in a gated community wasn't the biggest on the street, but it earned nods of respect from neighbors. This Friday afternoon, Amina applied her favorite lipstick and adjusted her new lace head wrap. These efforts were not for Kofi's eyes. They were for Adama, the younger man who had slid into her Instagram DMs 3 months ago after meeting at her friend's birthday party. Amina drove her small Toyota through the town center, waving to acquaintances through the window. She turned away from the road to Fatima's house and headed toward the new luxury apartment buildings near the governor's office where Adama lived. She checked her makeup one last time in the rearview mirror before stepping out into the humid air, her high heels clicking on the polished tiles of the building's entrance. Adama was waiting for her, his smile bright against his well-trimmed beard. At 30, he was 12 years younger than her, with the energy that Kofi had long ago traded for business meetings and political connections. He called her his sweet Amina, pulling her inside his air-conditioned apartment with its minimalist furniture and large windows overlooking the city. Later, as they lay together on his bed with his designer sheets, Adama spoke of what had been on his mind. "How long will we keep sneaking around like this?" he asked, scrolling through flight options on his tablet. "I've been looking at houses in Accra. We could start fresh there where nobody knows us." Amina had been thinking along the same lines, but she had no idea how to leave her husband. She sighed, thinking about a divorce. But in 2019, people still talk. Would she even get to leave her husband in peace? Her family would never understand. A woman doesn't leave her husband without a reason everyone accepts, especially when he is as connected as Kofi. She voiced her concerns to Adama, and his face took on a thoughtful look. Soon he came up with a plan. "Tell them he fails as a husband in ways that matter," Adama said, his voice low and clever. "Tell them he can no longer satisfy you as a man. There's a man they call Dr. Babatunde at the edge of town. Not a real doctor with certificates on his wall, but people say he knows things. Modern medicine mixed with old knowledge. They say he can prepare something that makes a man lose his strength in bed, not forever, but long enough for you to have a reason no one will question." Amina raised her eyebrows. "You want me to give Kofi something to make him impotent?" Amina thought long and hard about it. If Kofi cannot be a proper husband, no one would blame her for seeking happiness elsewhere. Even her pastor at the church they've attended for 10 years would understand. After all, it happens to men his age all the time. "This Dr. Babatunde," she said finally. "Where can I find him?" Adama's smile returned. He picked up his phone and sent her a location pin. On her drive home, Amina's thoughts warred within her. Was what she planned worth the risk to her reputation and her standing? But then she remembered how Kofi no longer noticed her new hairstyles or the expensive perfume she bought with the allowance he gave her. When she arrived home, Kofi was on a video call with business partners, his designer glasses reflecting the screen's lights. Once, in the early days of their marriage, he would have ended any call when she entered the room, eager to hear about her day. Now, he barely looked up, just raised a hand in absent greeting. She glanced at their wedding photo on the wall, the faces younger, his hand protectively on her shoulder, a smile full of hope. Amina turned away. Tomorrow, she would find the green door behind the shopping mall. Amina parked her car in the mall's lot, but didn't go inside. Instead, she walked around the back, a designer handbag clutched tightly against her body. She found the green door exactly where Adama said it would be, wedged between a generator repair shop and a store selling Chinese phones. No sign marked it. She hesitated, checking that no one was watching, then knocked. The door opened just enough to reveal part of a man's face. One bloodshot eye examined her. "Yes?" The voice was deep, suspicious. Amina whispered her purpose and mentioned Adama's name. At this, the door swung open wider. The man who stood before her was not what Amina expected. No traditional garb, no mysterious aura. Just a short, balding man in his 60s, wearing a Manchester United jersey and khaki shorts. His sandals were made from old car tires, the same kind sold in markets nationwide. "Come," he said, stepping aside. "Sit." He pointed to a plastic chair across from his desk. "You are having husband troubles?" Amina blinked. "How did you?" Women like her, he noted, only came for two things. Either the husbands were cheating and they wanted revenge, or they were the ones cheating and wanted freedom. The wedding ring still on her finger told him which category she fell into. The conversation turned to her husband's age and health. 47 with high blood pressure, she told him. Babatunde nodded approvingly as he made notes. After a few more questions, Babatunde selected a small brown bottle from his shelf. His instructions were specific: 2 drops in Kofi's food or drink every day. Tasteless, odorless. After 2 weeks, difficulties would become noticeable. After a month, even pharmaceutical aids wouldn't help. When she stopped administering the drops, it would return to normal in a few months. Enough time for her to establish her reason for leaving. That night, Amina cooked Kofi's favorite jollof rice with spiced chicken. For the first time in months, she set the table properly, lit candles, even played the music they had danced to at their wedding. Kofi's surprise was evident when he came home to this unexpected display of affection. While he washed up for dinner, she uncapped the brown bottle in the kitchen. 2 drops, Babatunde had said. She hesitated briefly, then let them fall into Kofi's portion of rice. The liquid vanished instantly, absorbed by the tomato sauce. Throughout dinner, Kofi talked about his business deals, about politics, about everything except her. Amina smiled and nodded, all the while watching him eat the doctored rice. Every bite felt like a small victory. He complimented her cooking enthusiastically, even helped himself to more, unaware of the invisible ingredients seasoning his meal. For the next 3 weeks, Amina became the perfect wife. She cooked Kofi's favorite meals, each seasoned with 2 invisible drops. She suggested they go to bed early, initiated intimacy, only to secretly note his gradually declining performance. At first, Kofi made excuses: fatigue from work, stress from a new contract. By the 3rd week, he stopped trying to explain and started avoiding her touches altogether. By now, he had visited 3 different doctors. The first, a young physician at the local clinic, had prescribed vitamins and rest. The second, a more expensive specialist in the city, had given him little blue pills that made his heart race but did nothing for his manhood. The third, a urologist with an office in the expensive part of town, had suggested the problem might be psychological and recommended counseling. None had helped. None could help. Amina played the dutiful wife. When the problem proved irreversible, she tearfully told her closest friend and renowned gossip, Nana, about troubles at home. how Kofi was struggling as a husband, how patient she was being. Nana's sympathetic clicks of the tongue told Amina the narrative was working. Soon the story would spread through their social circle like a harmless virus, preparing the ground for when she finally left. It all was falling into place. She couldn't help but be joyful. Amina arranged to meet Adama at a new hotel on the outskirts of town, far from curious eyes. They hadn't seen each other in nearly a week. Soon she wouldn't need these excuses and secret meetings. Soon she would be free. When she knocked on the door, Adama took longer than usual to answer. When he finally opened it, his smile seemed strained. His usual enthusiasm dimmed like a lantern running out of fuel. Amina noted the change, but attributed it to stress. She had brought good news after all. Kofi's condition was now consistent. She had been laying the groundwork with friends and family. Within a month, perhaps two, she could file for separation citing irreconcilable differences. She would be free. She expected Adama to celebrate with her, to start planning their future together more concretely. Instead, he sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his expensive shoes, his hands clasped between his knees like a schoolboy about to confess a misdeed. There was someone else, he finally admitted. A woman he'd met through work, younger than Amina, unmarried, from a good family with political connections. They'd been seeing each other for nearly a month. It was serious, very serious. In fact, the father had already given his blessing for marriage. Amina sat perfectly still as the world collapsed around her. The words fell like machete blows. Younger, unmarried, good family, marriage. When she found her voice, it emerged as a strangled whisper. What about their plans? What about all she had done, was still doing to be with him? Adama couldn't meet her eyes. It had been fun, he said. She was an amazing woman, but he was 30, ready to start a family. His new love, Esther, was 24, fresh, uncomplicated, and her father was a commissioner in the state government. Such opportunities didn't come twice in life. Amina's mind calculated swiftly. Everything she had done to Kofi, the deception, the drops, the deliberate destruction of his confidence, had been for nothing. She already filed for divorce, burning her bridge while standing on it. She left soon after, promising there were no hard feelings. These things happened, she agreed. Better to know now than later. She wished him happiness with Esther. All lies, of course. Adama would suffer. The next morning, a police officer appeared at her door. Allegations had been made, he explained without emotion. Allegations about illegal substances, about poisoning. A man who wanted to remain anonymous had come forward with quite a story. Did she know anything about this? Amina's denial sounded hollow even to her own ears. The officer handed her a summons to appear for questioning. When Kofi came home that evening, his face was a storm cloud. The police had visited him at his office, in front of his colleagues, asking questions about his health, about his wife. It seemed Adama had secretly reported his ex-lover out of fear of her revenge. He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He simply placed his briefcase on the table, looked at Amina with eyes that had aged a decade in a day, and asked one question. Why? Amina had no answer that would make sense to anyone, least of all herself. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized, and the rumors were endless. The scandal had been contained somewhat. Kofi had connections of his own and preferred discretion to public vindication. Dr. Babatunde's little office behind the mall also disappeared overnight. No one in the area admitted to ever having heard of such a man. Kofi, freed from both his marriage and the drops in his food, found his health returning. The doctors called it miraculous recovery. A psychological block removed, perhaps. Whatever the cause, he was himself again. He sold the house they had shared, moved to a different part of the city, and eventually began seeing a kind widow from his church. As for Amina, the community that had once respected her now avoided her eyes. No invitations came to weddings or baby showers. Her phone rarely rang. Her family maintained minimal contact, more out of duty than affection. She found a small apartment in a neighborhood where no one knew her story. She took a job at a travel agency, arranging vacations for happy couples and families while their own dreams of happiness gathered dust. Sometimes, on quiet nights, she thought of the green door, of the choices that had led her here. The medicine she had intended for others had become her own bitter pill, swallowed daily in lonely rooms. They say that in Abeokuta, if you listen to the market gossip, you might still hear whispers of a woman who thought she could purchase happiness in a bottle. They say it as a warning to young wives with wandering eyes, to young men with deceitful hearts. They say that some medicines cure the body but poison the soul, and in Abeokuta, they know it's true.